asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Coming to you live from San Pedro, California, where NoFX just played their last 3 shows before retirement. It was a blast, exhausting and emotional, but also very, very sunburny. Shout out to Fat Mike, Melvin, Smelly, and El Jefe from Brandon and Travis here on Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty the Anime podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Travis.
Hey everybody, I am Brandon, and in a special welcome to all the NoFX fans who are listening to today's episode.
Yeah. Welcome, both of you, to Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. Happy to have you.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have all of you, actually, not just the 2 NoFX fans.
Yeah, this became like a crazy NoFX crossover podcast.
It'd be fantastic, and I would say that I hope that I saw you there in San Pedro this last weekend, because it was exhausting. It was a blast, and I probably should stop drinking for maybe like 2 more years. Woo!
Woo! All right. Welcome to this Rick and Morty podcast, where we are covering Rick and Morty the anime as it plows through its inaugural season. If you are new to the show or you are listening for the first time, there are many ways that you can keep up with us. You can keep up with us on X at Rick and Morty Pod, Facebook.com/Rick and Morty Podcast. We're on Instagram, Rick and Morty Podcast. You can send us emails, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on subreddits. We're on the official Rick and Morty subreddit, rickandmorty.reddit.com, or you can find our subreddit, rickandmortypodcast.reddit.com. And then you can find video versions of the podcast. If you want to see which one of us has glasses, you can go to youtube.com/apathetic enthusiasm. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things over on YouTube that you would normally do. And then finally, a big thanks to our patrons at patreon.com/apathetic enthusiasm, supporting all of our podcast endeavors and cashing in on those behind the paywall post shows that you can only get as a Patreon subscriber. Big thanks again to the patrons. All right.
I had an idea, Travis. I won't broach it here on this episode, but I do want to talk to you about it after the show. Look, I'm so much more focused than I've ever been in my podcasting career right now. So if you
were gonna cancel tonight, you were like, I can't do it. My body can't take it. I'm exhausted.
I thought I was getting sick for like that 10 minutes where I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should really get some rest. But then I realized that I've been gone for a week and that my family wants to know that I exist in their lives. So
that's fair. That's a fair
So
point.
Tonight's already a recording night. Let's just get it out of the way and let's roll.
Let's just keep with the system, not mix things up too much.
Yeah.
And in keeping with the system, let's start with the first segment that we always start with on Interdimensional RSS, which is semi-pertinent news.
Get out of my way. Can't you see I'm from LA? Yeah, I met Slash. I got a rose tattoo. Yeah, I think I know way more people than semi-pertinent news.
Ooh.
All right.
Very well done, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. So a couple bits of semi-pertinent news. You may have noticed this. You may not have, but Spencer, Ian, and my brain. I had focus and I lost it all. Sorry, Harry. Yes.
Ian.
Spencer, Harry, and Ian. Yes. They were out here in LA all weekend long, just talking to everyone but me.
Yeah, going to NoFX concerts.
Yeah, I shot a message out. I was like, I would totally be there, but I'm I gotta go to this NoFX thing. If I knew that you're gonna be in LA for the Comic-Con, I would have been there. And they didn't respond back to me. But
they're like, you're dead to us, Brandon.
Give me that interview back that we gave you, where you confused my name last time, you dick. Yeah. So anyway, so they were at LA Comic-Con, and so shout out to all the fans who were able to check them out live. And really, we talked about this before. In previous episodes, just how much they've been doing the Comic-Con circuit.
Yeah.
And getting their faces and their voices out there, and interacting with the fans. I think that's wonderful for them. So thanks for really doing that, because that has to be and kind of an exhausting thing to meet new people constantly, constantly.
Yeah. Actually, another piece of semi-pertinent news. This actually comes out of the panel that they did at LA Comic Con. But our favorite nepo baby, Spencer, she is the daughter of Kelsey Grammer, who fans of adult animation know has voiced a very popular character on The Simpsons for a long time, the one and only Sideshow Bob. And when asked at one of the panels over the weekend, asked about any characters that she would want to voice or things like that, and she said, "quote I really want to do The Simpsons. I want to play like Sideshow Bob's illegitimate daughter." Which I think would be fantastic to do a guest spot on The Simpsons where that she could play some sort of role tied to Kelsey Grammer's character.
Yeah.
She goes on to say that she would also take on killing Bart. Like run around saying, "I'm like, die, Bart, die! I'm coming for you." With like her like that summer like vocal fry maybe a little bit.
Yeah. And it would be fun. There's a episode of Simpsons where Sideshow Bob marries an Italian woman, and I think they might have a kid together, a little boy, and it would be cool to like have a daughter of Sideshow Bob,
Yeah.
meet up with the boy, and then go on a reign of terror against. But she wants to kill Lisa versus them both wanting to kill Bart. That way there's that whole crossover where they
It
battle
writes
the
itself,
sexes.
really. Come on, just call us up. It'd be interesting to see the character design for Sideshow Bob's daughter. That'd be an interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, it would almost be like curls, like kind of pigtails.
Like,
Instead
yeah.
of instead of going up and out, like it's down and out,
Down and out.
or down and in, down and in.
Well, anyway, yeah. If you guys got a chance to be at LA Comic Con, congrats. It's just so cool to, if you're not like following, Ian, Harry, or Spencer on social media, they're active on their Instagrams. They're always sharing the different events that they're going to be participating in, things like that. Occasionally, Chris Parnell will also make some appearances at some of those events. So really, like, the voice actors very engaged with the fans and getting out and meeting folks. To include, and we mentioned this last week, New York Comic Con coming up later this year, where you're also going to get showrunners like Dan Harmon, who are going to announce like new things coming out for the next season. So
Yeah,
stay tuned for all that fun.
real cool, real cool. So Travis, I didn't put this in the show notes, but we do have a Reddit post of the week, and I apologize.
So good.
I am so prepared, but I'm so prepared as far as a speaker goes. You'll notice that I haven't said a lot of ums, ahs, likes, and those things, because I feel very confident about talking to you right now, because it's great seeing you. You light up my life, and I want you to know that I care about you so deeply. But anyways,
with that said, let's get to the Reddit post of the week.
No, I love Travis. Here's the thing, everybody. Okay. This Reddit post of the week is by Prima Soul, and they write, "This scene was borderline terrifying. The fact that only watching some squirrels could lead to doom is terrifying. Air Force. AF. Terrifying as fuck."
Yes.
It has 7,000 upvotes. It has 104 comments, and I'm not going any deeper than that, but it's a picture of Morty looking up at the squirrels. He can understand them, it is a terrifying scene, but it's also wonderful that squirrels are controlling the world.
Yeah, it gives me so much less to worry about in this next 30 days.
Yeah,
because I know the squirrels got it.
But it also makes me wonder, right? My dog, my little Chihuahua, she barks at squirrels all the time. And I think there's a squirrel living under the deck in my backyard. And she just like, barking at it and, bark, 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 and like scratching at the deck and ruining her nails. And I wonder if squirrels are so smart, why don't they just kill all the dogs, because dogs bark at them all the time.
I think it's
my dog like strung up?
I think it's a control thing. I think the squirrels like to manipulate the dogs.
That makes sense.
Because they feel that they're a lesser species. But
yeah,
I don't like getting into politics on this podcast.
Small furry animal politics.
Exactly.
Mhm.
All right, so there you have it. That is this week's semi-pertinent news. If you see a semi-pertinent Rick and Morty or Adult Swim news story that you think we should cover on a future episode, send it to any of our social media links or send us an email, and we will look at that in a future episode. And when we come back from this short break, we will be diving right into the 8th episode of Rick and Morty the anime. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back from that very short break. It is now time for the moment you've all been waiting for.
Don't put that on me. Don't give me shit about the timing of my fade ins and outs.
I didn't do the video transition, so it's just us staring awkwardly at the camera during the video part. I pressed the button on the Stream Deck and it just didn't work. So yay technology. Anyway, let's get into the main thing.
Mom and Dad, how'd you get so rad? When exactly did you get so hip? Doing drugs and asking me for hugs. What's the matter with main things today? All right, welcome. Thanks again to NoFX. That was a great concert.
Doing great.
It is time now for the main thing. Travis, this episode coming up, everything is getting so clear now.
Yeah.
I can see clearly now. The multiverse is gone. So let's go ahead and get into this. This episode is Feel, Don't Think, much like we do on this podcast week to week. Aired 10/3, so October 3rd, written and directed by Takashi Sano. Bronopsis, I'll let you take this one away.
Finally getting some answers, bruh. Heavy decisions, bruh.
And our synopsis, as the Smith family prepares for a fight, Rick reveals a hidden truth to Morty. I don't think that's our synopsis.
No, that's the official synopsis of the show.
Yeah.
It's
but
weird. It's
weird
in
bold
in this multiverse where the official synopsis is not the bronopsis anymore. It's I don't know. Oh, how times have changed.
We are in a reverse thing going on.
Yeah,
that ties into the whole plot.
I'm really creeped out right now, Brandon, because
Why?
somebody is in our Google Docs, and I don't know if that's you.
It's me.
Okay.
Real quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Little behind the scenes production note there. I was just like, somebody's in the doc.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, they're gonna get all of our show notes. All right.
They're gonna ruin us. They're gonna make us not be prepared.
They're in our show notes. They're stealing our content. All right. So anyway, a few big themes from this episode, but you're absolutely right. Like watching this episode, everything seemed a lot more linear. Like things made a lot more sense. It really feels like things are coming together, and I don't know, some of those early predictions that we had in terms of like all of the confusion we had in those early episodes, they're for me, they're kind of gone. They have really set all of that groundwork for understanding and setting up these last few episodes. It does make me want to go back and kind of watch the season as a whole, and see with this new perspective, like how I feel, if my opinions have changed at all about those earlier episodes. I still think this is probably a show that is better consumed in a binging format.
Yeah,
personally.
What I'm interested in, Travis, is eagle-eyed listeners. Do you say no? You wouldn't say eagle-eyed listeners. What would you say? What kind of listener would be like the equivalent of an eagle-eyed viewer?
Rabbit-eared.
Okay, a rabbit-eared listener. I want them to go
well, or do they just have big ears? I don't.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's true. Like basset hounds are they've got big ears too, but they're just so floppy. They probably can't hear that well.
Anyway,
All right.
Just gonna
Well,
do a quick Google search on what animals.
and while you do that, I'm gonna ask this question, which I almost forgot what it was. Oh, eagle-eyed listeners, here's here's what I want to know. How many times has Travis said during the course of this 8 episodes so far, this show is better binging, probably? Because
100%. I stand by it. Elephant-eared listeners will know.
okay, I'm down. I'm down. But and that's not a knock on you, right? It's
Yeah.
not a knock on you, even though it seems like a knock on you, and I meant it to be a knock on you. What
Yeah.
it really is me saying, like, I agree with you, because that is exactly what it is. You all of the first 3 episodes, all ramshackle, hopshot words that are mixed and matched up,
Completely real and not made up.
much like this season, are now coming together. And one of the things that is interesting to me is, because we're seeing different memories of the past, we're not seeing some of that stuff is not current, what's happening. Some of it was like flashbacks. Now I'm interested in going back and seeing if there's any theatrical or thematical tells that show you that that's a flashback and that it's not real. And it does take you back to the very, very first episode, when they show Morty and Elle in so many different examples and versions
Yeah.
over and over again. Oh, that's because this has happened over and over again.
Yeah. So, and I think that's something we're going to discuss here as we get into the main themes of this episode. The first theme for me is kind of a throwaway. It's really just like the big family fight on Earth. This is sort of the action that's taking place over most of the episode, but in terms of story or content, it's almost more of like a misdirect from what's actually happening in the episode. There's some cool scenes, some fun little fights and things like that, but for the most part, like, and we could talk about, any favorite bits from that sequence, but it really not part of the overall theme as much as things like this idea of deja vu and repeating time and living through multiple iterations of the same lifetime as they continually try to like reset the universe. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, okay, just talking about the misdirect piece, Rick and Morty does this a lot. Well, most shows do this a lot, where they show you a clip of part of the show, and mentally, this is the classic situation, which I've talked about before. You order a Sprite, and damn it, it's just fountain water. They forgot the syrup, and your brain is like, no, that's not what I wanted. That's not Sprite at all. That's vomit, right?
Yeah.
That's what a preview for an episode does sometimes. It makes you think it's going to be one thing, but what you actually ordered is something different.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed the fight sequences, like, for the most part. I thought they're pretty cool, like some of the scenes with Summer in the mech suit, or the the battle mech type thing.
Yeah.
But it was really really when it got into those later scenes dealing with confronting long-haired Rick and his, like, it was weird because they kind of hint at it early in the episode as they're getting ready to defend the house, and Beth says something to the effect of, like, yeah, it feels like this feels familiar. It feels like my body, like, knows this, even though, like, my brain doesn't, or something. And Space Beth also kind of speaks to that. And it's kind of queuing up this idea of maybe this is something they've already done before. Maybe this is a life they've already lived in a past iteration. And then it really gets into that later on, once Rick and Morty use that fight as a distraction to portal out and go find long-haired Rick, who then kind of expands on the fact that he has memories of those previous universes. He's been living out this lifetime, he says, hundreds or thousands of times, right? And there's this continual loop, the infinite loop of resetting lifetimes as he and this version of L continually try to create the time bomb, reset everything, and create the circumstances, so to speak, that allow them to be in the situation they are in this episode.
Now, Travis, I watched this episode in traffic. I was driving about 80 miles per hour on the 118.
As somebody that has been in a car accident less than 2 weeks ago because someone was on their phone while driving, it is the official stance of this podcast to not condone that type of behavior.
Now, look, I wasn't holding the phone. I just had it like a display. I've got one of those fancy new displays where like
had it as a heads-up display in front of my windshield.
Yeah, because these new cars, they guide you wherever you need to go. They'll stop if you need to stop. Anyway, no, but you said something interesting because we started talking about the deja vu stuff, but all of the long-haired Rick deja vu stuff is from his world. Now they're fighting the Federation in this world, in C-137 world, and she's already talking about deja vu, which leads me to then be like, is that a misdirect for being like, well, is there fate? Like, is there a change at all?
Yeah.
Is there an actual change?
And I don't know if we're going to get those answers in the next couple episodes or if that's something that we're just going to be left thinking about. It is interesting how many things are connecting, how many dots are sort of getting connected as things happen. And I think for me, there has always been a confusion between the Mortys in this series, maybe, where I've always kind of thought of them as one Morty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we've been talking about two different Mortys in two different realities, and the Morty that we saw die in the last episode when he was shot by the Gromflemite, I think that's Longhair Morty's Morty, right? And so
a version of long-haired Rick's Morty.
Right, yeah. That's right, long-haired Rick. Nothing's confusing about this show. Let's be honest. But that makes so much sense as to why when they portal into this universe, that random alien henchman looks so stunned and shocked to see Morty there, right? Because Morty was a hero in that universe.
Mm-hmm.
Morty was, and his death would have been well known, and he was a celebrated individual. So that then for him to suddenly be there alive would matter. It would be important. But yeah, and just like as they could, I really liked rewatching this episode because it gave me more time to slow down, go through all the things that long-haired Rick was saying, talking about a life that feels like deja vu, kind of referencing back to those things that the Beth said at the beginning, and then how he was fed up with this feeling of just reliving the same life over and over again, and feeling like he's always going to come to the same outcome, and Elle having that line about how it's always, long-haired Rick's choice. He always has a choice, right? And sort of like making that decision to execute what is essentially like Elle's plan, maybe, and do something different is a choice that Rick has always had. And then we start to get kind of more into what this plan really has been, and maybe kind of who's been behind the wheel in piloting this whole plan too, with Elle really becoming the mastermind in this whole process.
I feel like I need a healthy dose of peyote to match the thinking behind this, because what it is, that line is great. It's always been, where is it?
It's always a choice. Or
it's always been your choice, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's always your choice, which goes into philosophical concepts of rebirth, death and rebirth, living the same lives over and over again, nirvana, like reincarnation until you get it right. Groundhog Day, if you will. Um, and I think that's interesting. She's saying it's your choice because you keep choosing to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you feel and this is information, this is context that we have now. We didn't have this context earlier in the season. Now, okay, now we understand the context. He always has this choice, and he always makes the one that restarts everything, so she
Yeah.
can try again.
Yeah. Yeah, and all of this time thinking about her as uh, a race, a type of alien that experiences time in reverse, or experiences, every moment of her life. She remembers it all from the beginning. It is that really what it is, or is it that she just has the ability to remember these past iterations of her life, and as life continues to repeat over and over again, she is just aware of how everything plays out.
Live, die, repeat.
Yeah,
Edge it tomorrow.
it's really interesting to think about her behind the scenes, maybe pulling the strings on, sort of all these different things that can happen, and then knowing how to maneuver within those series. It's kind of Groundhog Day-ish a little bit, like the Bill Murray movie, right? Like, all right, he's the armored van drives up, and then somebody ties their shoe, and then you grab the thing, and like he knows all of the movements already, so then he can do whatever he wants to kind of get around those consequences.
Yeah, I like in that vein, why I love Edge of Tomorrow, Live Die Repeat, based off the manga. All you need is kill. What I like about that story is, like, Groundhog Day, he's stuck in the same day, but he's stuck. He can't move forward. It's not that, like, he tries to kill himself. He wants to die. He wants to just move on, and he can't. Whereas in the Tom Cruise hit and Emily Blunt, he is learning. He's trying to survive a little bit longer. He's trying to live. He wants to live because he's a selfish person. And eventually his path, when he realizes, you know what, I want to be with this chick. I want her to survive. The only way to really get her to survive is if I just do this on my own. I can't save her no matter what I do. I can't save her. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sacrifice myself to try. And that's when the things shift for the movie.
Yeah.
That's what I am almost maybe associating this closer to that, in the sense that Elle she knows she's going to die. She can see what's going to happen, and she can see that she has started this type of thing, and she can make these, like, minor changes. Maybe she can't, if we're going for a Lost reference, you can't divert the river. All you can do is slightly change the path. It's still going to get to that same destination. You just divert the path a little bit.
And when you think about Elle coming from a reality where she has this romantic relationship with Morty, a Morty that becomes heroic and ultimately dies, and then she's left after that, heartbroken, alone, with long-haired Rick, and they're like, okay, let's reset it again, right? Like, that is their fate, is they are from a reality where they both feel for Morty and lose him tragically. And then that ultimately ends up in a situation where they destroy the entire timeline so that they can reset it and try again. This is her cheat code. This is her way out, right? This is her way to be with Morty and also like not have the situation where, as Rick explains in this episode to a very emotional Morty, that the time bomb is essentially her. It is her true body, and Elle is the personification of this antimatter, and you can't have one without the other. If you destroy the time bomb, Elle ceases to exist, because they exist within the same dimension, within the same universe. But by having their timelines intermix and cross over, this allows Elle to exist in the one timeline and then take that time bomb back to the other dimension, and they could potentially reset it. It would destroy that timeline. It would destroy that universe, but Elle would be able to then survive in the other dimension. Heavy stuff.
Heavy.
Very, very eye-opening that this is what all of these other episodes have been leading up to. And interesting to think about this as all really being part of Elle's quote-unquote grand design, right? Her being the... I mean, they show her in one image as
the puppet master,
like a godlike figure, right? Like floating in this glowing space, just kind of keeping tabs on everything that's needed to make this a reality. And yeah, it's really interesting. I think it stood out to me even more, and I think she may have said this in another episode, but in the post-credits scene where I think it's long-haired Rick in disguise as like an alien on a park bench, he talks about, is this what you're waiting for? All these coincidences or something like that. And she says, there's no such thing as coincidences, right? Which, if that's the case, then she's kind of been setting all this up, or there's been some sort of, something at play to make sure that all of these things happen. Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know. What do you think as all of those things were revealed?
It is interesting that the grand design. My philosophy on any kind of grand design is going back to software development and product development.
Womp womp.
It's all iterative, right?
Sure.
Like all our ideas, this podcast, the things behind the podcast, the things we talk about, the other shows we do, our families, our friends, our relationships, everything is built little by little. And I couldn't have imagined that in 2004, 2005, whenever it was that we met, 2006, 2007, whenever it was that we met, 2008, 2009, whenever it was that we met, I couldn't imagine that we would be here sitting today talking about a cartoon that came out in 2014 and talking about an anime version of that same show.
Yeah. With a neon sign from the anime hanging on the wall behind me. Yeah.
Yeah. Me wearing a Fat Records hat, looking like I'm a fucking old punker. We couldn't have, you can't, oh, look at that LED light. You can't so plan bright. That. You can't make the grand design. Grand designs come from like, oh yeah, that works. Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, that worked. Maybe we can try to do some more of that experimentation. Oh yeah, that's not working. Okay, well, let's take a little bit of that because a little bit of that worked. Okay, and so if you imagine that for Elle on a massive scale, thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times, small iterations to get to the point where we are here now in the story, where maybe this is the one that's going to do it, and maybe Travis. We've talked about this being a new spin. Doesn't it feel like this is like a weird origin story for how Rick got back to the family?
There have definitely been scenes and moments in this series where it does feel like that could be the situation. It could be like an origin story. I think some of the scenes that they've shown a couple times where Beth is like, my dad's never coming back. I'll take your note, but I don't think he's ever going to be here. In this post-credit stinger, we see Rick kind of crash back into the house and be there. I think it could potentially be, but I don't know. Like I said, I need to rewatch this whole thing and kind of, because there's still so many things that are linked together that I'm not sure like where they're at, which reality they're in, and because of like the existence of Space Beth and things in this timeline, I feel like this has to have happened beyond what we are like past what we already know of Rick and Morty. But like they could, it's Rick and Morty. They could do whatever they want, right?
They can. And one of the things, I did a lot of traveling this last week. I was up in Virginia.
Yeah, you got to dribble the basketball, otherwise you're gonna get called every time.
Yeah, I was. Oh, man, the Spurs. I tell you what, they're just disappointing this year. You know me, and big Spurs fan.
They're losing to the Thunder in a preseason game right now. Right
really?
this second.
Oh
yeah.
Shoot! I just called Spurs. I liked Robinson back in the day. Anyway, yeah, that's right. I know a basketball player that's not from the Lakers back in the day. So traveling, lots of traveling. When I'm in a hotel, I turn the TV on, and guess what? Rick and Morty was on late at night, and I caught some more of those old episodes. And Jeff, who hasn't watched any Rick and Morty, I made him watch a couple of the actual Rick and Morty episodes. He's like, "Okay, I get it now. I get it. It's good. I can see why it's different." But there's some episodes where it was not the clone. I can't remember what the other word is. Where like there's Muppet Rick and Beth.
Oh yeah.
The duplicates.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the episode, the whole family is up in the spaceship with Space Beth, and they're like, "Hey, we should hang out with Space Mom more often." Like, yeah. Oh crap! The duplicates got out. Like, wait, what? Right? So there are a lot of adventures, and you go back to Morty's Mind Blowers. You go back to any of those kind of like Clippy shows. There are things that are happening that you just don't know about.
Yep.
So very well, it is very likely that this could be canon. It could be. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. And that's what we talk about misdirects for this show. Wouldn't that be a misdirect? We've been thinking that it was an offshoot.
Yeah, and I don't. Do you have a preference on? Would you like it if this came out and turned out to be part of C-137 canon, or would you prefer that it be a separate thing, or do you not really have a preference?
I think that because obviously we like the comics. For a while we were C-137 that this might be a little bit canon, and then they said no. But what I found is the comic lovers, they love the comics. As we talked to Alex, like they're not that they're different people, and they're looking at different things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think if you're watching Rick and Morty on TV and you're a fan, you're following along with the story, you don't want to be like, you don't want to have to try to explain this isn't anything to do with the actual Rick and Morty, especially when you use C-137.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think it would be a mistake to try to be like, no. Let me just because the plane was in the credits doesn't mean that they were dead the entire time. One of those things.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this was a good episode overall. We're left with a bit of a cliffhanger where Longhair Rick says, "I think Elle would want you to choose, Morty, what we do." So Morty is essentially left with this choice: will he destroy an entire dimension so for the opportunity to stay with Elle in his? And I think there's some second and third order effects there. Like we're taking long-haired Rick at his word. We assume the science is sound, but are there any risks in the decision? Like how is that going to work? Is something going to happen that is irreversible if we try something for the first time and it doesn't work out? So I think there's going to be some really interesting developments in the last couple episodes to kind of tie this whole thing together.
One of the things that Takashi had mentioned, and they'd said it at the panel, they said it in the interview, was that this was a story about Morty and Elle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took us a minute to really hone in on that, but here we are now, and we got 2 episodes left. This is episode 8. We got 9 and 10. That's 2. Count them, 2.
We can do simple arithmetic. Take that.
We will see where we're going to be in 2 episodes, and where this all leads, and what that conclusion is going to be. That's going to be the real tell about. That almost might be what defines the series as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think my opinions have steadily improved throughout the episodes as more of the story has kind of come into focus. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see how they stick the landing, so to speak, in these last couple episodes.
The last thing I'll say, and I wanted to make that observation, is I feel bad retroactively for the enthusiasm that we had early in the season, because we were just kind of so confused, and it was hard to be for our form and our function on this show. It was hard to make a conversation about it, and I'm sure the audience can tell. I'm sure you fine Unity listeners can tell. We were much more enthusiastic about these last couple episodes than we were about the first couple. And again, if we're going back in time, Travis, I think that if we binge this show, I think we will appreciate those episodes way more.
Add it to the tally. Add it to the tally for how many times we say that. One last thing before we get into favorite bits and best and worst parts is right before they portal out of the dimension, they pull Jerry aside, stick him in a mind blower seat, shove a vial on his forehead, and just kind of take off. No explanation, no real context for it. For some reason, this version of Jerry can be trusted on an errand to go get a mech suit out of a wormhole train station thing, and he's reliable enough to do that. But I much like we spent most of this episode talking about, everything's starting to make sense, everything's coming together, and then they do something like that. I have the confidence now that we will get an explanation in the next episode or 2 about why that happened. But that was just one thing where I was like, what the heck? Like,
well, and as Rick and Morty portal away, he does say, not your Jerry, not your dad. So there's a memory from other Jerry in there. About and what that means, we'll find out.
We will.
I have confidence, same as you.
So confident. Let's talk about some of our favorite bits. One thing that just real quick, like, we were kind of right early on about the VR stuff being real. I know we kind of like speculated, all right, maybe this isn't a VR thing. Is this real? I don't know if we were right or we just kind of asked the right questions, but that was a big sort of announcement for this episode to be like, I put portal fluid in the VR thing to try and make it more realistic, and I think it actually crossed dimensions or something like that.
We may have mentioned, and please fact check us, just like the presidential debates.
We said no fact checking on this podcast.
Oh yes, shit. Please fact check us, but I think we also mentioned like interdimensional cable at some point in time, it being like they're alternate realities, right?
Yeah. So. This was something that it's a favorite bit for me, but it's like a double bit, right? Because I think I've come to the conclusion that when I watch the dubbed versions, I still get subtitles for like the sub version, right? Like they don't change the subtitles, so I can read what like the original Japanese dialogue is translated. But I hear the American version of the dialogue and any rewrites or stuff, right? So there is a scene right after Rick has explained Elle's impending fate and that she'll have to be destroyed for them to destroy the bomb. Morty is crying. He's devastated. And then the rest of the family starts to come out of the sub-basements. And Beth's like, oh, Morty, you've been crying. And what Rick says in the dubbed version is different than what's written in the sub version. But I think they're both really funny. So Rick says, oh, it's nothing. And the subtitle says, we were just watching Dumbo. As that's the reason why Morty's crying. But then the American voiceover actor says, we were just talking about bodies changing.
That's right.
So like you get a double joke. It's awesome.
And neither of them are what he actually says. Well,
Yeah.
maybe the Japanese
I mean,
version. You have here the bug that gets up and says, I'm okay, then gets shot by Beth.
Yeah, like immediately. This is another one where I think there may be a discrepancy between the Japanese version and like the American, because there is no subtitle for I'm okay when that bug's I think maybe in the like dubbed version or sub version, he just stands up and gets shot. But in the American version, they're like, wouldn't it be funny if he's like, hey, I'm okay? And then she shoots him, which I do think is funnier. So good work there.
Moving over to some of the best and worst parts. Rick delaying bad news because he knows he'll have to tell Morty the truth anyways eventually. Love that subversion of, no, we don't have time, Morty. We gotta solve this issue, and then I'll explain everything after that. I'm always a fan of subverting that expectation. So definitely,
it's like,
definitely one of the best
I'm just gonna have to tell you anyway, so I might as well do it right now. Yeah, let's just do it. I thought Summer's mech was pretty cool. Like, this felt to me like me and my absolute zero knowledge about anime, just some of the ways it was drawn and things. I was just like, all right, this feels like some kind of stereotypical like anime stuff, but like in a good way, right? Like it's just like, yeah, we're gonna get a cool big robot fight. Let's go.
I'm always a fan of mechs. That's why I like Titanfall. That's why I like StarCraft. The Terrans, right? I like the Protoss too. They've got some mechish type creatures, but definitely Mech Warrior. That's good. There was a movie back in the 80s called Robot Jocks, and then they had a sequel called Robot Wars. It's very obscure. If you've seen them, they probably suck, but me and my brother and my uncle, we really loved them. Okay, so get into the worst parts of
this. This is just catching a continuity error. Realistically, is all this is. But in the scene where they're getting ready for the big fight, and Space Beth is gonna take off with Elle to go and actually attack the Gronflamite's ship. As Space Beth's ship takes off, you can see Summer there in the giant mech, and then there are some other characters in the driveway that go running into the garage. It's Rick, it's Morty, and it's Elle. They just get done with a conversation that Elle is gonna go with Space Beth to go up into space, and then there's the shot where Elle is still on the ground as Space Beth is taking off, and she runs into the garage. And I thought, oh, did I miswatch this the first time? Did I misunderstand? And so then I kind of doubled back. Yeah, that's definitely Elle on the ground. And then the next time we see an interior of Space Beth's ship, Elle is sitting right next to Space Beth. So she either teleported, which is a power we haven't seen so far in the show, or we have a minor continuity error where maybe Beth was supposed to be drawn or something like that. But anyway, that's my only criticism.
Here's what I'll throw out there, Travis. And there's a bear with me.
There's a bear with you?
Yeah, it's in the back. It's actually got a gun, because has
just off camera, and if you mess up anything you're about to say, it's over for you.
Yeah, and he has the right to bear arms. So What? What? What?
Bam!
What? Uh, you just see me murdered on screen, and then a bear takes my earphones off, and then starts. um,
Continuity.
I think this is a pretty good show. Thanks for having me on, Travis. Uh, it's so stupid. But maybe here's what I'm gonna say. maybe maybe that continuity error is intentional. We saw what the first 3 episodes were like, right? It's all over the place. What if that is intentional to show back to the point I was talking about before that this has happened before.
Yeah, no, I think that's possible too. I'm very curious to see if it plays as an intended, double L situation, or
Yeah.
if it was in fact a mistake. I don't know. We'll see.
It's like it is like when you watch Fight Club. I don't know the last time you watched Fight Club.
It's been a few years. Yeah.
I watched it with Chelsea and the kid, right? Wanted to show him Fight Club. He's 12 years old now. He's about to hit puberty. It's time that he watches movies that he's going to rapidly misconstrue and misunderstand and take the wrong messages from. So we want to introduce those things to him early. But in that movie, right? Spoiler: Brad Pitt's not real, but there are little glances of Brad Pitt's image in the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
And mentally you're like, okay, I just saw Brad Pitt. I don't know why I just saw Brad Pitt. That's cool. I don't know why would they do that. And you think it's weird, you think it's uninteresting. Then in the middle of the movie, they talk about the cigarette burns, and then that's when they're changing the reel. And then you find out, okay, yeah, that's what they were doing. They were splicing little images of Brad Pitt in there, so to subconsciously kind of throw you off, to let you know there's something weird. But same thing here.
Just a point of order. Don't they do that right up until the point where Tyler Durden is actually introduced?
Yes.
And then that stops happening, right?
Yeah.
It's foreshadowing, sort of, right?
As soon as he's introduced, and it's because Marla starts messing it, and come on, why are you in testicular cancer? You don't even and she's like, well, to be fair, you don't even, I don't even have balls, so I have more reason to be there than you. Oh, Travis showing his Fight Club 2 graphic novel.
You're making me want to go watch that movie. Anyway, let's wrap up this podcast. So bear with you. What are we talking about? Or am I bearing with you while you tell your Fight Club story?
No, the point that it's intentional, right? It could be potential.
Yes, it could be.
It's meant to be. Okay, let's move on from that. I haven't gotten a response from him, but we're moving on to listeners' suggestions and short outs. This one is getting shorted out to, first of all, our Apathetic Enthusiasm fans who have actually said to us, to me anyways, hey, I'm trying to find your podcast. It doesn't seem like you've put any new episodes out in at least 8 episodes. And I say, because we're talking about Rick and Morty. And they say, oh, yeah, I don't watch that. Well, I guess you don't care about me, Hassan. And Jeff listens. Mike Estera.
I don't know. My schedule might open up a little bit at times where we can maybe make a couple episodes a week, depending on how busy you are. You seem to have a busier life than me right now, so we'll see.
I always think about that, where I'm like, why don't we just release this? But then I think, well, not everyone is a Rick and Morty fan, so I don't want to put that on the AE folks who are like, I don't want to listen to this, because then that stops them from actually listening to our
muddies
show.
The waters.
Yeah. Muddy Waters, the famous blues musician.
Yeah. No,
but now I do have something for us, Travis. I have something from Jeff Bowles,
our one listener,
in a little segment called Jeff has never seen the original show, but he's watching the anime. I went up to Virginia with Jeff this last week, Travis.
Jeez, you and Jeff are getting pretty close. Something you want to tell me?
Yeah. He's bigger than you.
Yeah.
in so many ways.
He's got more hair than me.
He does, but he does have like one bald spot. But that's because
That's all I got. I'm
was an
nothing but bald spot. You know
there
what I
was
mean?
an accident that he got into. Anyway, they're not putting his business out there. So we're up in Virginia. I already said about this going to the hotels, and yeah, I'm always putting on TV. I watched Mad Max one night with my friend Justin when we went to the NoFX concerts. But if I can help it, I go to Adult Swim and Family Guy's on, American Dad, but then Rick and Morty's always on. Well, Jeff has been watching Rick and Morty anime, and like we come back from the bar, like, dude, Rick and Morty's on right now. Turn it on. Turn it on. I'm like ironing clothes for the next day. I'm like, check it out. And so he's watched a couple episodes now, two nights in a row. And so here's his feedback about Rick and Morty. Everyone, welcome Jeff to the fold. Yes, it's funnier than I gave it time for. Is Rick clone thing a running gag, or did I happen to get the one episode where it mattered? Are there a lot of references to relatively now obscure media? Yes, Star Fox is awesome, but it does not have the cultural significance it did 15 years ago. Now I feel old. Morty is
I
less of
think he's underselling the 15 years. Like, more like 25 years?
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. You're old. And then Morty is less of a whiny whinerson than in the anime, but Rick seems about the same, if a bit more crass. I chalk that up to anime sensibilities. And he's writing something currently, but we probably won't get to it. Oh, wait. I think they did Jerry justice in the anime. The only difference I saw is he gets treated worse in the original show.
I would agree with that. I
would agree.
Do you guys just have a shared note where he's adding stuff and then you can read it?
Yeah, it's called text messages.
Oh, weird. Never heard of them. Anyway, that's our show, everybody. Woo! Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, 2 more episodes of this podcast for the anime. I do intend to rewatch, I think, all 9 episodes before the finale comes out. So I will probably, when we do that finale episode, kind of look at it holistically as as all of that put together. We do owe our listeners an Apathetic Enthusiasm very soon, so we'll probably take some time to record an episode as soon as this season is over. But yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on the anime. Let us know what you thought about this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. And if you're new to the podcast, rate, review, do all the things. And next week, another episode getting ready for this finale. So thank you so much for listening. Until then, I'm Travis.
Thank you, everyone. I am Brandon, and I am the guy who controls the music. And sometimes I go slower, sometimes I go longer, sometimes I forget to put original sound from musicians on, but sometimes I hover my finger over the button so I can just click it like this and then get softer in the microphone and then put the music on.
That was Brandon, guys. See you later.